welcome back to the Lech Tech Moser podcast. We continue with the Indian of Amen. We are on page 148 in the article, day 63 of Hachzik. We discussed the importance of Amen. We discussed a minhag back in the times where people would try to do the right thing with getting the Brachos and Musaf, but we said that it can ultimately cause more harm, more bad than good, as well-intentioned as the person may be. We said, the Pele said very strong lashon, that the parents would come back. The parents would come back and say, who asked you to do this? You're causing more harm than you are of giving our neshamas an aliyah. Why? Because there's going to end up causing a desecration of the Shem Hashem, Mechal Hashem Shemaim, and Brachos Levatala. And because of that, a person has to be very careful, always with saying Shem Hashem and Brachos, and we continue adding another very important point. This that we've said, to say Kaddish slowly, can only be done to the full extent to the one who's actually saying Kaddish. But if one recites it together with many others, he can't be so makbid, he can't be so vigilant about this. Because there are people that go quicker and some people go slower, and because of this, it's going to end up that you can't get it in the optimal way. So we're going to say a suggestion how to get it to work. So it says the Yoeitz it would be great if the person in charge of the shul, okay, so he gives these eitzos of how to do it right. And now we're going to continue with that, just practical suggestions for the Beit Knesses. The Chazan must be extremely vigilant to recite all the brachas of Chazar Sashatz quietly and out loud. He should be very careful to say it very clear and enunciated. Not like the way some people do it, that they say only the first three brachas out loud, but the rest they say it quietly. Aside from the fact that regarding the esoteric secrets of these matters, he's causing bad things to happen in Shemayim, so he's referring to what's called in halacha, what's called the Heichel Kedusha, which is an accepted practice in many places in the world, including one of the largest yeshivas in the entire world, Beis Medrash Gavoya, otherwise known as BMG. And there are different cheshbonos to take into account. There's Talmud Torah, there's all sorts of things. So again, as usual, while the Pele writes the optimal way of doing things based on Kabbalah, but a lot of times in terms of practicality, in terms of the accepted minhagim, it's not always so simple and black and white, and that's why we see that if a person's running, he has to make an airplane, he has to make a flight, and they have to say Heichel Kedusha to make the flight. You don't. It's not so posh that you are mechuyev in a minyan, even in the first place in the airport. You're allowed to travel, so if you're allowed to travel, then you don't have to daven with a minyan. So if you don't have to daven with a minyan, then what's better, to say have the minyan say Heichel Kedusha or not daven at all with a minyan? So there are what we call legal loopholes, and one has to know and ask when to use those. V'shamati min miktzas shluchi tzibur tam agun. Says the Pele, I heard from a few chazanim an acceptable explanation for shortening the tefillas these ways. They're afraid that people are going to leave and they're not going to have people around. They're not going to be able to make the kadeshim at the end. So says Yoeitz that in a economy, when there's a small amount of people and it's possible they're going to run into this issue, then yeah. But the best would be that you should do it together and say every word, everything word by word. Without these reasons, if a person just wants to speed through it, speed up the prayers, then it's not a good excuse. One should not be false to his soul and lose opportunity for so much good. The Ayim Tshuvas Advaz, Simin Tzadi Dalid, Mikol Makom Yisudei V'Shem Echadzar Afil B'Minyan Mitziyonim. The point over here is that it's very important to have the means, and whenever you have the opportunity, you should try to capitalize on that. And although there are situations and circumstances where it's not so feasible, like in BMG or making a flight, but when those aren't the circumstances, then a person should always be conscious and aware of the importance of the main, of Brachos, of being Marbeh Kavod Shamayim. With that, we conclude the chapter of Amen.